Okay, quick story. In 2017, a company called Equifax, one of the biggest credit bureaus in the US, got hacked. The personal data of about 147 million people leaked. Social security numbers, birth dates, addresses, gone. And the cause? A piece of software that hadn't been updated. One missed update. That's it. Here's the thing. Cybersecurity isn't some abstract topic for IT departments in dark rooms. It affects literally everyone who's ever typed a password, clicked a link, or used a credit card online. So today, we're breaking down how attacks actually work, what the good guys do to stop them, and why, even as a beginner, understanding this stuff matters. Let's get into it. Here's what we're covering today. First, we'll set the foundation, what cybersecurity is actually trying to protect, using a framework security professionals use every single day. Then we'll walk through the attacker's playbook, the main types of attacks you'll hear about constantly: malware, phishing, denial of service attacks, and more. After that, we'll flip to the defense side: encryption, authentication, firewalls, and how all these pieces work together like layers of an onion. We'll also talk about social engineering, because honestly, humans are often the weakest link, not the computers. Then we'll do a deep dive with some real, practical examples to make all this stick. And we'll wrap up with the big takeaways you should walk away with. Whether you're going into software development, just curious, or trying to keep your own account safe, this episode's for you. So before we talk about hackers and attacks, let's talk about goals. What does it even mean for something to be secure? In cybersecurity, there's a classic framework called the CIA triad. No, not that CIA. This stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. These are the three things every security measure is ultimately trying to protect. Confidentiality means keeping information private. Only the people who should see something can see it. Think about your medical records. You want your doctor to see them. You do not want your nosy neighbor to see them. When confidentiality fails, that's a data breach. Information ends up in hands it was never supposed to reach. Integrity means the information stays accurate and unaltered. Nobody tampers with it without permission. Imagine if someone could quietly change your bank balance or edit a hospital's records of what medication you're allergic to. Integrity is about trust. Can you trust that the data you're looking at is the real, unmodified data? Availability means the system is actually usable when you need it. If a hospital's computer system gets knocked offline and doctors can't access patient records during an emergency, that's a failure of availability, even if no data was stolen or changed at all. Here's a cool way to remember it. Imagine a bank vault. Confidentiality is the lock. Only authorized people get in. Integrity is like a tamper-proof seal. If someone messes with the contents, you'll know. And availability is the vault door actually opening when the bank needs it to, not being jammed shut. Almost every cybersecurity concept we're about to discuss is, at its core, an attack on one of these three pillars, or a defense protecting one of them. Keep this triad in your back pocket. It'll help everything else make sense. All right, let's talk about the bad guy's toolkit. First up, malware, short for malicious software. This is basically an umbrella term for any software designed to cause harm, steal information, or give an attacker unauthorized access. There are several flavors, and the differences actually matter. A virus is malicious code that attaches itself to a legitimate program, kind of like a biological virus needing a host cell. It can't spread on its own. It needs you to run the infected program, and then it can copy itself into other files or programs. A worm is similar, but scarier in one key way. It doesn't need a host program or a human to click anything. It can spread on its own across networks, exploiting vulnerabilities to jump from computer to computer automatically. Think of it like a virus that doesn't need you to sneeze on someone. It just teleports. A Trojan horse, and you can probably guess the reference here, is malware disguised as something legitimate. Remember the Greeks hiding inside a giant wooden horse to sneak into Troy? Same idea. You download what looks like a free game or a useful tool, but hidden inside is malicious code that activates once you run it. Ransomware is one of the nastiest modern threats. It encrypts your files, scrambles them so you literally cannot access them, and then demands payment, usually cryptocurrency, for the decryption key. Hospitals, schools, and even entire city governments have been hit with ransomware, sometimes paying millions to get their own data back. And then there's spyware, software that secretly monitors what you do. This could be tracking your browsing habits, or in the worst cases, a keylogger, software that records literally every keystroke you make, including passwords, as you type them. Here's the analogy that ties all of this together. Think of malware categories like different ways someone could break into your house. A virus is like a thief who needs you to physically open the door for them. A worm is like a thief who can pick locks and move from house to house on their own. A Trojan horse is a thief disguised as a delivery person you willingly let inside. And spyware is a hidden camera someone planted in your living room. You have no idea it's there, watching everything. Phishing is when an attacker sends a message, usually email, but also text messages or social media DMs, pretending to be someone trustworthy in order to trick you into giving up sensitive information or clicking a malicious link. Think about how often you get an email that says, "Your account has been suspended. Click here to verify your identity." That urgency, that fear of losing access, that's the whole trick. The email might look identical to a real one from your bank, down to the logo and color scheme, but the link underneath leads to a fake website designed to steal your login credentials the moment you type them in. There's also spear phishing, which is phishing, but personalized. Instead of a generic "Dear Customer" email blasted to a million people, a spear phishing attack might say, "Hi Sarah, following up on the invoice from last Tuesday's meeting with the Henderson account," using real names, real context, stuff the attacker researched specifically about you or your company. It's way more convincing because it doesn't feel like spam. And here's the analogy. Regular phishing is like fishing with a giant net. Cast it wide, see what gets caught. Spear phishing is exactly what it sounds like. A single, precisely aimed spear, targeted at one specific fish. This connects to a broader concept called social engineering, manipulating people, rather than computers, into doing something insecure. Why bother spending months trying to crack a password algorithm when you can just call someone pretending to be IT support and ask them to verify their password for a system check? Humans want to be helpful, and attackers exploit that. Remember our CIA triad? Let's talk about an attack that goes directly after availability. A denial of service attack, or DDoS attack, is when an attacker floods a system, like a website's server, with so much traffic or so many requests that it can't keep up, and it crashes or becomes unusable for everyone else. Here's the analogy. Imagine a small coffee shop with one cashier. Now imagine 10,000 people show up at once, all trying to order at the same time, none of them actually buying coffee, just standing there, taking up the cashier's attention. Real customers can't get served. The shop hasn't been broken into, it's just been overwhelmed. Now, a distributed denial of service attack, or DDoS, is the same idea, but on a massively larger scale. The traffic comes from thousands of different computers simultaneously, often without their owners even knowing. How? Those computers have been infected with malware and turned into what's called a botnet, a network of zombie computers controlled remotely by an attacker, all unleashed at once on a single target. So if a regular DOS attack is one angry person blocking a doorway, a DDoS attack is thousands of unwitting people, each of whom has no idea they're part of the problem, all shoved through that doorway at the exact same moment by some puppet master pulling the strings from afar. Okay, enough doom and gloom. Let's talk about how we fight back. First up, one of the most powerful tools in cybersecurity: encryption. Encryption is the process of converting readable information, called plaintext, into a scrambled, unreadable format, called ciphertext, using a mathematical algorithm and a key. Only someone with the correct key can reverse the process, called decryption, and get back the original information. Think of it like a locked diary written in a secret code. Even if someone steals the diary, all they see is gibberish, unless they have the special decoder that only you and your friend possess. There are two major types of encryption you should know about. Symmetric encryption uses the same key to both encrypt and decrypt. It's fast and efficient, great for encrypting large amounts of data. But there's a catch. How do you securely share that key with the other person in the first place? If you send the key over the internet in plain form, and someone intercepts it, your whole system is compromised. It's like having a super strong lock on your front door, but mailing a copy of the key in a postcard. Asymmetric encryption, also called public key encryption, solves this beautifully. Each person has two keys: a public key, which can be shared with literally anyone, and a private key, which is kept secret and never shared. Here's the magic. If I encrypt a message using your public key, the only thing that can decrypt it is your private key. So I can send you a secret message using information that's publicly available, and only you can unlock it. The analogy that always clicks for people. Imagine a mailbox with a slot. Anyone walking by can drop a letter through the slot. That's the public key, open to everyone. But only the person with the actual key to the mailbox can open it up and read what's inside. That's the private key. The drop slot, being public, doesn't help an attacker at all, because dropping things in is easy, but only one specific key opens the box. This is the foundation of HTTPS, that little padlock icon you see in your browser. When you connect to your bank's website, your browser and the bank's server use asymmetric encryption to securely agree on a shared secret. And from there, they often switch to faster symmetric encryption for the actual data, getting the best of both worlds. Encryption protects data in transit or at rest. But there's a separate, equally critical question. How does a system know it's really you trying to log in and not someone else? That's authentication, the process of verifying someone's identity. The most common method is, of course, passwords. But passwords have a glaring weakness. They're just a piece of information. If someone learns it through phishing, a data breach, or just guessing, they can pretend to be you completely. Security experts categorize authentication methods into three buckets, often called the three factors. Something you know, like a password or PIN. Something you have, like a physical phone, a security key, or a bank card. Something you are, like your fingerprint, your face, or your retina biometrics. Two-factor authentication, or 2FA, combines two of these categories. So even if a hacker steals your password, something you know, they also need your phone, something you have, to get the verification code. This is hugely effective. It's like a door that needs both a key and a fingerprint scan. Stealing just the key gets you nowhere. Here's a question worth thinking about. Why is 2FA so much stronger than just having a really, really long password? Because passwords can be stolen en masse through a data breach affecting millions of accounts at once. But an attacker can't simultaneously steal millions of people's physical phones. The factors need to come from genuinely different worlds to provide real protection. Let's zoom out to the network level. A firewall is a system, either hardware, software, or both, that monitors and controls incoming and outgoing network traffic based on a set of security rules. Think of a firewall like a bouncer at a club. The bouncer has a list of rules. People on the guest list get in, people who look suspicious get turned away, and certain rooms inside the club are off-limits, regardless of who you are. A firewall does the same thing for data. It decides which connections are allowed to reach your computer or network, and which get blocked before they even arrive. But here's an important mindset shift. No single security measure is ever enough on its own. Modern cybersecurity relies on a principle called defense in depth, layering multiple different security measures on top of each other, so that if one fails, others are still standing guard. Think of it like protecting a castle. You don't just rely on the outer wall. You also have a moat, a drawbridge, guards at the gate, and locked doors inside the keep. An attacker who gets past the wall still has to deal with the moat. Gets past the moat? Still has guards to contend with. Each layer buys time and reduces the chance that a single mistake leads to total disaster. In a real organization, defense in depth might look like a firewall blocking unwanted traffic, encryption protecting data even if it's intercepted, two-factor authentication preventing stolen passwords from being useful, regular software updates patching known vulnerabilities, remember Equifax, and employee training so people don't fall for phishing emails in the first place. One more important concept. A vulnerability is a weakness or flaw in software that could potentially be exploited by an attacker. Software is written by humans, and humans make mistakes. So, essentially, all complex software has vulnerabilities somewhere, even if nobody's found them yet. When a vulnerability is discovered, software companies release a patch, an update that fixes the flaw. This is why your software needs an update. Notifications matter so much. Each unpatched system is essentially an unlocked window that attackers know about. A particularly scary scenario is a zero-day vulnerability, a flaw that attackers have discovered and are actively exploiting before the software company even knows it exists, meaning there's no patch available yet. Zero-day refers to the fact that the company has had 0 days to fix it. These are valuable and dangerous precisely because there's no defense ready yet. It's a race between attackers exploiting it and defenders discovering and patching it. All right, let's make all this concrete with some real-world walkthroughs. Example 1. The phishing email, step by step. Imagine you get an email that looks like it's from your university's IT department. Subject line: Action required. Your email storage is full. The email has the university logo, looks professionally formatted, and includes a link. Click here to free up space. Let's apply our CIA triad lens. What's the attacker actually after? Probably confidentiality. They want your login credentials so they can access your real account, your emails, maybe your financial aid information. Here's what happens if you click. You're taken to a web page that looks identical to your university's login page. Same colors, same logo, same layout, but look closely at the URL. Maybe it's university-login.net instead of university.edu. That tiny difference is everything. You type in your username and password, hit submit, and that information just got sent straight to the attacker. Meanwhile, the fake page might even redirect you to the real login page afterward, so you don't suspect anything happened. How do you defend against this? A few layers, just like our castle analogy. Awareness training. Knowing to check the URL carefully before entering credentials. That's the human firewall. Two-factor authentication. Even if your password gets stolen, the attacker still can't log in without your phone. Email filtering systems. Many phishing emails get caught and flagged before they even reach your inbox. See how multiple defenses each catch what the others might miss? That's defense in depth in action. Let's walk through a hypothetical, but very realistic, ransomware scenario. A hospital employee receives an email with an attachment labeled patient_schedule_update.pdf. It looks routine. They open it. Hidden inside is a Trojan horse. Malware disguised as a harmless PDF. Once opened, it silently installs ransomware on the computer. That ransomware then spreads across the hospital's network, behaving like a worm, encrypting patient records, scheduling systems, and medical imaging files across hundreds of computers. The next morning, every screen in the hospital displays the same message. Your files have been encrypted. Pay 50 Bitcoin within 72 hours, or they will be permanently deleted. Think about which part of the CIA triad got hit here. Confidentiality? Not directly. The attacker didn't necessarily read the patient data. Integrity? The data wasn't changed, technically. It's still the same data, just locked. The real hit is availability. Doctors can't access patient histories, can't see medication allergies, can't pull up scan results. The hospital is functionally paralyzed, even though, technically, nothing was stolen or altered in the traditional sense. This is exactly why availability is just as critical as confidentiality, sometimes more critical, depending on the context. A hospital that can't access records during a medical emergency has a life-or-death problem, even if the data itself remains perfectly accurate and private. How could this have been prevented? Regular backups stored completely separately from the main network, so ransomware can't reach them. Email filtering to catch the malicious attachment, employee training on suspicious attachments, and keeping software patched against the vulnerabilities the worm exploited to spread. Let's do a quick practical one. Which password is stronger? TR0UB4DOR, &3, or correct horse battery staple? Surprisingly, the second one, despite being all lowercase letters and looking simple, is actually much stronger against typical attacks because of its sheer length. Password cracking tools work by trying combinations, and length increases the number of possible combinations exponentially. A long string of random, unrelated words is both harder to crack and easier for a human to remember than a short jumble of symbols. But here's the deeper lesson. Even a great password isn't enough on its own, because the password itself could be exposed in a data breach completely unrelated to anything you did wrong. This is exactly why 2FA matters so much, and why using a unique password for every site matters too. If one site gets breached, attackers often try that same password on other sites, a technique called credential stuffing. If you reuse passwords, one breach can cascade into many compromised accounts. Okay, let's pull it all together. Cybersecurity is fundamentally about protecting three things: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. The CIA triad. Every attack threatens one or more of these, and every defense is designed to protect one or more of these. On the attack side, we've got malware, viruses that need a host, worms that spread on their own, Trojans disguised as something legitimate, ransomware that locks your files, and spyware that watches silently. We've got phishing and social engineering, which target humans rather than machines. And honestly, this is where most real-world breaches start. And we've got denial-of-service attacks, which overwhelm systems rather than breaking into them, sometimes using massive botnets in coordinated DDoS attacks. On the defense side, encryption scrambles data, so it's useless if intercepted, with symmetric encryption being fast but requiring careful key sharing, and asymmetric public key encryption elegantly solving that problem using public and private key pairs. Authentication verifies identity, and combining multiple factors, something you know, have, and are, through 2FA dramatically strengthens security. Firewalls act as gatekeepers for network traffic, and underlying all of it is defense in depth, layering multiple protections so no single failure leads to disaster. Finally, and this is maybe the most important takeaway of all, vulnerabilities are inevitable, because software is written by humans. The difference between a secure system and a vulnerable one often isn't perfect code. It's how quickly patches get applied, how well people are trained to spot phishing, and how many layers of defense are standing between an attacker and what they're after. So next time you get that "your account needs verification" email, or that prompt to update your software, you'll know exactly why it matters. That's Cybersecurity 101. If this helped things click, hit that like button, subscribe for more CS fundamentals, and let me know in the comments what topic you want covered next. Stay safe out there.